The Detroit Lions have a chance to do something they've never done. Every Lions fans know the story. One of 4 teams to never appear in a Super Bowl. Our last playoff win comes over 30 years ago. And we have never won the NFC North. And we have a chance this year to potentially do all 3 of those things. But for sure, we have a potential. We are in control to win the NFC North for the first time in its history. We also have a chance to host a playoff game, something Ford Field hasn't seen. And with that home field advantage, we have a chance to win that game. And there's a famous saying in all of everything you do. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And there's nothing more true than the NFL with not how you start, it's how you finish. The Cincinnati Bengals are notorious for slow starts, and they usually end the season pretty good. The teams that have come out like the Buffalo Bills, been super hot, and they fall off in the end, right? So it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the question that I have for you is, how are the Detroit Lions going to finish? Most coaches take the season in 4s. You have 4 quarters, right? You take the games. When it was 16 games, it was easy, but all you do is add an extra game. So after every 4 games, that's a quarter of football. And the Lions are done with 3 quarters of football. And in that, they are 9-4. That's an average of a little over 1 loss for every 3 wins. It's like 1.3. 1.3 losses for every 3 wins. And the Detroit Lions have 4 games to go. So if you were to use that math and that logic, the Lions should go 3-1 down the stretch of the last 4 going into the playoffs. But the question is, how are the Lions going to end the 2023 NFL season? And I think this is going to go a long way in the success that we have in the postseason. I know a lot of you guys don't think we're going to make a Super Bowl, and I myself think the divisional round could be our ceiling. But you never know what could happen. But I want to show you how it's not how the Lions start, it's how they finish. And these 3 games are important. The Lions have an opportunity to go 3-1 down the stretch, puts them at 12-5 for the season, and we go into the playoffs with a winning record. Okay. If we go 3-1 down the stretch, that means that we will have gone 4-3 in our last 7 games, which in my opinion is a lot better than 3-4, right? So let's look at the 2021 season for your Detroit Lions. Now, this was the 3-13-1 season. I want to say this was the inaugural 17-game season. The Detroit Lions, they tied with that abysmal game. Jared Goff was hurt that game. Cleveland and Chicago, I think Tim Boyle played. But after the Cleveland game, the Detroit Lions wind up going 3-3 down the stretch. They went 3-3 down the stretch. So that's 500. That's not bad, especially starting 0-12-1. I think that's what that was. 0-10-1. I'm sorry. That's what they started. If you go to 2022, we all remember this very well. After the abysmal start here, going 1-6, they wind up winning 8 out of the last 10 games. Buffalo came down to a missed field goal kick by Michael Badgley. And this game, we just were not prepared. And we know what happened in week 18, keeping the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs and solidifying the fact that nobody wanted to play us in 2022. Now let's move to 2023. Right here. The Lions have 4 games left. Here are where we are. We have Denver, Minnesota, Dallas, and Minnesota. I think that the Lions are going to lose this game, but I think that they can beat them when it comes down to Minnesota. Now, I'm not overlooking any of these teams, so I don't want you to, that's not the message I'm trying to convey. I definitely see one game at a time, but I'm also looking at the big picture as well. The Lions have not lost 2 in a row. Let me show you when the last time the Lions lost 2 games in a row. The last time your Detroit Lions lost 2 games in a row was when they lost to Dallas, October 23rd, and then the next week, they lost to the Miami Dolphins. That is the last time, October 30th. The last time the Lions lost 2 games in a row has not happened in almost 14 months. So if we go here, the Lions have an opportunity. I'm watching the Minnesota Vikings game right now. So far through 6 quarters of play, they have 10 points. If we can't beat this team, there's a problem. Dallas, I expect us to lose that game in Jerry World. It's going to be tough, but I think the Lions, they're capable of doing anything, right? So if we look at this and it starts today, got to get this game. Our season has come down to 4 games: Denver, Minnesota, Dallas, and Minnesota again. And the Lions are going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. I feel like they're going to win the division. There's no doubt about that. But if we go 3-1, okay, 3-1 in our last 4, that will make us 5. Let me see. 3-1 in our last 4. If we add the last 7, so that would be 4 wins, 3 losses. Like I said earlier, 4 wins, 3 losses puts us at 12-5, and we head into the playoffs with the winning record, right? So I believe that the Lions, they still have time to duplicate what they did last year. It was like every time we won 3, we would drop 1. Win 3, drop 1. After that abysmal start to start the season. So the Lions are still in control of everything, winning the NFC North. They win tonight against the Denver Broncos. All they have to do is beat the Minnesota Vikings. NFC North is ours, no matter what happens with the Vikings today. It's ours in week 16, right? Still got a chance. Yes, it could come down to the last game of the season in Detroit. What a game that will be. I will be at that game. Shout out to JBL and all my other Detroit Lions fans that'll be there. So we have a 4-game season. Can the Detroit Lions finish like they finished before? Now, in 2021, in our last 6 games, or they went 3-3 down the stretch, that's 50%. This Detroit Lions team is not that Detroit Lions team, right? In our last 6 games of 2022, what did we do? We went, in our last 6 games of 2022, the Detroit Lions went 5-1. 5-1 in their last 6 games. So far, they're 1-1 with 4 games to go. So can they go 5-1? Can they go 4-2? Can they go 3-3, which would be 1 loss to one of these 2 teams? Right, one loss by either, you know what I'm saying? So it's either going to be like we have to get 2 losses in 4 games. 4-game season, not how you start, it's how you finish. What kind of finish will the Detroit Lions have in 2023? Either way it go, we're making the playoffs, we're winning the division. But when we get in the playoffs, it's one and done. And you have to be playing your best football or it doesn't matter. It does not matter. We've seen the New England Patriots in 2007 win every single game except the one that mattered the most. They had home field advantage. They won every game. They blew everybody out on the path to the Super Bowl, and they dropped the one that mattered, right? So the Lions need to be playing their best football. And to me, their best football, the best they could be is 4-0. The second best is 3-1. If we're 2-2, that's mediocre, right? And if we're 1-3, then we got a problem heading into the playoffs. So whatever swag the Detroit Lions had at first, they need to get it back. They need to go back. What I hope that Dan Campbell is saying in the locker room today is taking the fellas back to 2021 and how tough that start was, but how we finish. Taking the fellas back to 2022 and how tough that start was and how we finish. Taking the fellas back to the beginning of the season when we were underdogs and we went and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, right? That's what I hope that we see from our team. A strong finish, because that is the only way that we do anything in the postseason. If we're trying to get that elusive playoff win that has spanned a considerable amount of my life, right? I'm 44, 30 plus years. The last time the Lions won a playoff game, Barry Sanders was the running back. They were still playing at the Silverdome on AstroTurf, and I was in middle school. All right? So they have an opportunity. They need to go back to their roots, the gritty football. Seems like the Lions have lost that. And maybe, you know how we going into, and I'll wrap the video up. We're going into the season, and Dan Campbell, we're saying all this stuff. Division winners, the Lions are going to do this, that. And we heard in the preseason, in OTAs, in minicamp, in free agency, soon as the season was over, that we weren't there yet. Maybe the Detroit Lions started to feel a little complacent. Maybe they started to believe what we all believed. And maybe that hindered them. I don't know. But whatever they had, they got to get it back. You know, you guys know Rocky IV is probably one of my favorite movies, top 3, right? And before Rocky fights the Russian, I know he's a fictional character. Just go with me, right? Duke is saying they're in Russia. Rocky's about to train. And He helps Rocky get through that. But during the fight is 15 rounds with Ivan Drago. Rocky is losing the fight. And I keep going back to this because it's who we are, right? He's losing the fight. The Russian is clobbering him. If it comes down to a decision, Rocky will lose. Duke says to him in the corner, he says, to win, you have to knock him out. You have to punch and punch till you can't punch no more. This is your whole life. It all came down to that one round. And in order, if the bell would have sounded and Ivan Drago was not on the floor, Rocky loses. That's important, how important that match was. But he had to give it everything he had in round 15 to put him on the ground, and he had to knock him out. So the Lions need to have that same underdog mentality. Go back to 2021. Go back to 2022 when nobody counted on you. Forget all that. Forget all the hype and all that stuff. Get it done. You've worked too hard. We've come too far for them to drop this. So 4-game season. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. And also put what was your favorite Rocky movie. Mine would probably, no doubt, is 4. For all day, we're not going to talk about Rocky 5 because that is a Sylvester Stallone. Don't even talk about Rocky 5. But I would say Rocky 4 and then Rocky 3. And then after that, it's a toss-up. But, I know some of y'all will disagree with me in the comment section. But you guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.